All right, Black Box Radio. We are in the box. It is a Monday afternoon. It's nice in Baltimore. It's like a cool summer. Nice day. We got some good conversation. Get ready to come at you. I'm Queen. I am a host at Black Box Radio. We are a multimedia platform illustrating Black excellence. We do this about 6 to 9 times a month. Please check us out at blackboxradio.com. Check out our YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to everything. Our YouTube is Black Box Space Radio. Please subscribe to that. Also, our YouTube channel, we're trying to build that. We also have an email. If you want to give us some suggestions, you just want to talk to us, just holler us at blackboxradio@gmail.com. And also all the social media sites, we're on it. TikTok, Instagram, we're on all of them. So hit us up, subscribe. So today, I just thought it was so imperative that we talk about the youth. I think everywhere I go back, I move around the country a little because my mother's in South Carolina. So I move around a lot. I go down south and I see everywhere. I go to New York, everywhere I go, there's problem with youth. And that 16 to 25-year-old kind of dynamic, the younger youth, but it's just like they're always on the corner wherever I go. They're chilling, they're outside. I don't know if they're working. I don't know what they're doing, but we got a lot of violence in major cities. We have violence in countries. We have violence everywhere. And it's not just youth, but we want to develop and talk about youth and talk about programming in Baltimore that particularly pertains to youth and developing of youth and empowering youth. So we got the man. You know, they know what they say, to connect the plug. You got to go get the plug. So we got Larry Simmons Jr. Say hi to the people, Larry.
Good evening, everyone.
Glad to be happy here. To have you.
Yes, thanks for having me.
We are happy to have you. I want you to tell the people a little about yourself. If you're from Baltimore, where you from? Just talk about yourself a little bit so these folks know that you are the plug.
Again, my name is Larry Simmons. I'm a West Baltimore native. I have been working in youth and community development over the past 20 plus years. And over the last maybe 4 years, have really kind of committed myself and my career to really sharing what I've learned over these years with my family, right? With the organizations and the community folks who are on the ground doing the work, really providing support and sharing knowledge that I've gained over these years and working in nonprofits here in Baltimore City.
Okay. So that's what I'm glad you said. You segue right into the first question. Now, nonprofits, because Baltimore, let me tell you something. Baltimore is the seat of nonprofit. This is nonprofit land. There's so many nonprofits or people, even fiscally sponsored programs. Is so much going on here. But usually when you see a lot of nonprofits, there's a lot of stuff to usually clean up. And so it's that's what's happening in Baltimore. We see all these nonprofits, and I don't know if I see we have a lot of nonprofits, but are we solving the real issues? Are the real nonprofits that's actually doing the work getting funded? Are we solving real problems in Baltimore?
I believe, well, one, I think the state of Maryland has probably more nonprofits than any other state in the country.
Is that right?
Don't quote me on that exactly, but I think it's weird, like up there, like 1, 2,
Top
3,
5.
really high in that. And just like you, I think a part of what helped me to decide, like, all right, I've been in that nonprofit space for so long. We have made we're chipping away at something, but like, how do I do this in another way? And that's what really kind of drove me to, working for myself and stepping into the consulting space because of so many organizations, right? Mm-hmm. Supposedly working towards the same mission and having the same issues to face. And being in all these meetings where we talk about, we're going to break down these silos and, exchange phone numbers. And then we walk out and do the same exact thing because we have been very comfortable in the positions that we have, very comfortable in the work that we try to do. And then that hamster wheel of need that young people and communities are constantly on. Mm-hmm. And so I think a part of it is us who are in these spaces becoming uncomfortable and sharing space for young people and sharing space with community folks. I think that there are many organizations who are doing that. There's some organizations that are waking up and saying, "Oh, let's step back and let's rethink."
Can you name me 5?
So I
Or I'm putting you on the spot. I don't
a
want
little
to.
bit.
Okay. I know you're a consultant. Pardon me. Listen,
A little bit.
bro, I ain't trying to
There's
make
some,
nobody
there's
lose
some
their
great
shot.
organizations, and when I'm talking about it, I'm not even talking about these big folks that have been in the space for so long, right?
Yes.
And who traditionally have always gotten funding, and who have always, just because they in the space and they know where to go. There are organizations like the Baltimore Children and Youth Fund, where I chair the board of directors, really making sure that funds are getting into the hands of those small community-based organizations, those grassroots organizations, that are really doing the work, oftentimes funding themselves, fundraising themselves, and not really being connected to the larger funding streams. BCYF has really made it possible for those organizations to be a part of that party, right? And then not only providing funds, but also providing the support that grassroots organizations need
We need
when it
technical
comes
assistance. We need a flow of
technical
money,
assistance, financial assistance. Like,
financial
how do I
assistance.
do my budget? Am I making sure that
Exactly.
I've allocated the correct funds? And really, so BCYF has been able to support organizations in that way, because some of the other big funding streams, it's like, hey, this is what we're asking for. This is what the metrics you need to hit. And sometimes that stuff is not even culturally relevant to the way that organizations work. And BCYF has definitely taken that into consideration, right? That these are Black-led organizations. Historically, these organizations have fundraised themselves through all types of ways. So how do we help them to quantify that and bring that into the work that they are, bring that into this other way of doing your work? So, I mean, and then, when you think about, on the flip side, the organizations that are actually partnering with young people, right, to create the programming that young people really want and need. So I could say, like,
who's partnering with young people,
like Aziza Peace, like, right, like they work with their young people really close.
Yeah, Saran Fawcett.
Yeah, Saran and her crew, they're really
exactly
working really close. There's an organization, Sarah's House Inc. They're really working close with their young people. They're a newer organization, but and have always kind of in their work have really kind of supported themselves. So when I say new, they're not really new to the work and to the city, but
they're new to funding.
They're new to that type of funding, right?
Exactly.
And so really working with young people to create the programming that young people are going to come to because they were a part of it, right? They have some ownership in that. And then they can also bring that folks. I mean, you look at the work that Joni and her young people are doing with Heart Smiles. That's another example of
Heart Smiles amazing. Great, another
adults working in collaboration with young people.
Exactly.
You look at the work that Elijah Miles and the young people with to the Tandea family, like that is.
Excellent. Let's go. Now you naming 5. Look at you.
I can give you 5, right?
Yeah, like, you gave me 5 on that. I love that.
Because and those are just they're just an example, right?
Great organizations.
Yeah. Phenomenal work. And those organizations that I named started out taking care of themselves and are still in a lot of ways still taking care of themselves, right? And are not have not been in that usual dance for funding that a lot of organizations are often in.
Absolutely. And that, I think that's an issue too. But I think a lot of times, because I really think in the Black community, we're the only ones who can solve our own issues. Everyone else is looking at us as if we can be fixed. But
ain't nobody coming to save us but us.
The only fixes is us. So I think a lot of times is mama them was nonprofits. Grandmama them, cousin them, uncle them, all of them was nonprofit, because in our communities, we have historically helped each other. We've had to, we've had to, and we've gotten away from it because we're so technological and we're moving into the society. And sometimes we forget that that's how we came up. Like, I mean, together.
You even look at like the community school strategy that Baltimore City Public Schools has, right? Like that really
is the what?
The community school strategy, which is a national strategy, but Baltimore City has taken hold of it and really made its own. Like, and that really is an example, like the living example of it takes a village to raise a child, right? You have a coordinator in a school, working through partnerships, bringing in resources to support that school community. And that work is not just for the students in the building, but also for the families and the community members that surround that school as
Name me
well.
one school.
Oh, I'm a former community school coordinator.
Okay, because I want to walk
got
with,
you
I want
got
to
to imagine.
go to a community school coordinator, and I
We
want to see
went
this process.
from we went from 40 community schools to approximately 170 community schools now. From Douglas, Patterson, uh, Dorothy Height, Cecil Elementary.
Where's this data of these community schools and the outcomes? Is that public?
It's public record.
Is it? I have
It's,
to go find that. Yeah, I have to
it's
find that because
Baltimore City Public Schools
sounds
on their
very
website.
interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a program like that. I think the community is the problem with schooling is we've made it this silo thing that just the kids go and get it. It needs to be a family oriented.
Oh, that's the thing. Like we really through community schools, the entire the entire family's being supported. You know that you can't spend 12 hours with a young person and send them back into a place that's not being supported, right? And so all the work that you've done is gone. So you have to support. You got to support the family. You got to support the community because that's where our young people are going back and forth. I mean, we might get to this later on our conversation, but I think you kind of mentioned at the beginning, but thinking about even the programming and the way that we work with young people 14 to 25 years old, right? Like we have to get to a point in our city, and I just think not even in our city, but just nationally, we have to get to a point where we stop blaming young people for the system that they live in, right? Or their response to the system that they live in. Right? We keep trying to work on young people rather than working on
the system.
But again, when we work on the system, that means us working folks or whoever you want to call yourself, we have to be ready to become a little uncomfortable. And so some of us who are in this the space of taking care of people, right? Once you get people off that cycle of need, what's your job?
Because understand there's a lot of money in the breakdown. So
it's profit and poverty. What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, listen, and poverty pimps, like my man used to say, poverty pimps is real, and we got to understand that poverty is lucrative to certain people, and we don't get that. We think that that people move with their heart, but no, people move with their pockets. As long as poverty is profitable, there's going to be some impoverished people.
You need me as long as you need me.
Thank you. It's always going to be an underclass, and right now. Black folks, we under, and we got to get on top, and the way for us to do that is we have to look at ourselves. We cannot look outside of ourselves. That's the number one thing. We live in a country that tends to put everything around us, and then we access. We have to learn how to be the everything that's around us. We have to learn that even when it comes from the bottom battle, from food to schooling, we have to take our communities back. We've given it to whomever or to the system, and the system now puts up these different systematic things in place that actually fail us because it's so neutral. So if you got a school of thousands of kids, how can one system work? Even if you got 5 kids, one system don't work in your household. Imagine a school.
If you think about it, our education system was kind of put together and founded on the Industrial Revolution, and
it wasn't for school for children. School was,
and that's not where we are anymore, right?
Yes.
Like we are in a digital society now, and we had and have great opportunity to rethink things after COVID. Like we really have this opportunity. I'm not going to say we lost it, but like fresh out of COVID, we really had an opportunity to rethink how we were going to do education and how we're going to take care of our young people. And a lot of times I'm also kind of pushing on what we won't get to where we want to get until we decide on how we're going to even value Black children. Like, what is that value that we put on children to make us do the things that we want? I mean, do the things that we're supposed to do. We know what we're supposed to do. I mean, we have these conversations aren't new, and what we're talking about right now is just not. We don't own it. People are having these conversations all the time, but again, when are we going to put some feet to the conversation?
I think too, Larry, and that what you said is so true. Like the responsibility is not the young people. The responsibility is on us. You know, we got to make a space because they're not a problem. It's a system that they're coming up in. It broke us down. So imagine with all this technology and all the things that they know, what it's doing to them. So we got to find a way. And I don't know the way. I don't know the source. But I think education, as you said, is an issue. It started in industrial, but school was never for kids. It was a place to chill. It was never to educate. It was a place to put children while people work. So when we look at the history of school, they built a system around, and now it's a moneymaker. The breakdown of education is now a moneymaker also. So my problem, what I see in this system is they attach money to everything, and it messes everything up to me. You look schools, I mean, the federal government sends money in for every child, so they want you in the door. It's not really particularly if you're getting taught, as long as they're getting those endowments for having children there. And even church, everything starts with this money thing, and it breaks down us as a society. And I think people are so wound up in their things. I got to get my stuff. I got to pay my bills. I got to feed my children. They don't feel they even have the time to think about empowering the youth, because I'm feeding you, I'm taking care of you, I'm giving you the system makes everything harder. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like people can't look past their stuff to say, I can listen, I need to do something for the kids in the neighborhood. There ain't no time. So what do we do?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said, so you're right.
Yeah, I just cut off. My bad.
Listen, as you okay. Yeah, you like, what do people do? Because like I hear from a lot of people, like, listen, they inundated with life.
Yeah, that's the thing,
it's a
right?
hard thing to talk about.
It is, and I think that you got to make that sacrifice. And that sacrifice, and that's that uncomfortable thing that I keep talking about. And the sacrifice looks different for all of us, but it's a sacrifice that we all have to make. What I do can be something totally different from what you do, but it's something that you have done for your community. And you hit something on the head. Like, sometimes people think about this big citywide thing, but really thinking about those young people on your block, those young people that are in your family, those young people that you walk past every time you go to the corner store. What does that I mean, I think thinking back to COVID, and when COVID first, like when we first got sent home, and we didn't know what to do, and
March
so
2020.
Yeah, we outside and going to the store and all that, and it was these little dudes that hang outside the corner store, and they were smoking, and I stopped, not because they were smoking, but because we didn't know what COVID was like. And I was like, yo, like, y'all really want to, like, you really want to share that? Like, you might want to think about that. And then I talked about it. I was like, because it get hot, and it's like, we just don't know. Yeah. And they was like, oh, you know what, Mr. Larry, like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm just
that communication.
Yeah, just having that kind of conversation, just being an adult in the community that young people know that they can trust and have conversation with. We don't sit on the porch and talk or anything like that, but we say hello when we walk past each other on the street. When I go to the store, if and when I go to the store, there's that respect that happens. It's those little things. And then, so it's that little stuff that leads into the bigger things. Like,
that's what I wanted you to say. That's exactly what I want to say, because
people feel obligated.
Yes.
You don't have to feel obligated to do these gigantic things,
right in your neighborhood, in your house,
right on your block.
Exactly.
Next door neighbor.
If we all just imagine if every black block galvanized and they all did something for the youth and themselves as a community, every block. But we imagine what that would do for just Baltimore City.
Like we used to.
Like, I know, we gotta get back. That's what I'm saying. The stuff we're doing now ain't working, bro.
It's not working. Like, it's not, and there's nothing wrong with like evaluating and shaking the things off that don't work and bring some of the things back that did work. Absolutely. Like I grew up in the city during the late 70s, 80s, 90s. Like, I know a different Baltimore, and that is why
the Afro Clean block.
Yeah. City Fair and all of that stuff, right?
That's before I came here. Yeah,
I work. That's what has me in this work, right? Because I know another Baltimore. I believe in another Baltimore, and and we're not stuck here like this. I believe that Folks are getting tired enough, and you know, people are really understanding what it means to be allies and what it means to be supporters of youth voice, and how do you really, like, people can talk about, oh no, yeah, we listen to young people and we had these listening sessions, and you still doing the same thing. So you really just talk to them just to talk to them, just to say you talk to them.
Yeah.
But I think and I believe that we're moving from that, right? And that, shoot, young people starting their own organizations now, and are tapping into some of the same resources that adults and old heads have been tapping into for years. Young people are tapping into those resources and are getting those funds and know how to use them. And so it is a time that some of us can step to the side and use our influence to support, right, rather than to hinder, but allow young people to do some of this work that they know how to do.
They do. I think that well, first I want to say before I respond to that, there's a rally on Thursday, April 27th at Arena Players. It's the National Action Network. There are the Stop Youth Violence. So it's at 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. on the 27th at Arena Players. So if you guys want to come out in Baltimore, that's a national organization, and they're talking about youth violence. You know about that, Larry?
I was to say that's
on Thursday.
And what is
that's
they're out in New York, right?
Yeah, that's out of New York, but they have a chapter here. Larry Young and all of them in that chapter.
Yeah. Okay.
Mama Bonnie. So yeah, there's a rally. Well, not a rally. There's a talk. They're trying to find ways to stop youth violence. So if you're interested, please come out. It's Thursday, April 27th. It's on our story for Black Box Radio. You can check it out if you want to come. I just want to put that out there. That's a community joint if you guys want to come, because the violence is heavy right now. We're losing our children. So
it's wild, right? Like,
wow.
It's this lack of options.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't know how to respond, so I'm just going to respond this way, and that's not the best way for anybody. But it is because sometimes there's just no lack of options. And then and some of the other work that I've done with research project, we really heard from young people. The Nobody Asked Me research project, we really heard from young people, and a lot of it was, a lot of it's protection. And so then we're trying to figure out, what are you protecting yourself, right? But when you think about this space of mundane violence and terror that young people live in, right, with this constant state of violence that young people live in, that oftentimes they don't even realize or see, because it's just because it's mundane, right? From the time you wake up to the time you leave your house, to the time you jump on the bus to get to school, to the time you get to school, there's been some kind of craziness, some type of something that is not normal taking place for you every day, all day, that you just become numb to it, and it just kind of happens to you. That's not how it's supposed to be.
It's not supposed to. The violence is crazy, but a lot of what I do see is, first of all, they're not safe. I mean, we live in a country that's not safe, and we're trying to pretend to our youth like this shit is safe. See, that made me curse, Larry. I mean, it's not safe here. It's not safe for grown-ups. It's not safe for young people. That's first.
Right.
So they're protecting themselves, and I get it, because they want to be outside. They're not going to stay inside. And so we got to stop trying to pretend like, oh, it's safe for them. No, they strapped because it's not safe. That's one of the problems. Then another problem is we're not looking at everything. The food that they're eating is triggering bad behavior. I mean, they're eating trash, and what you expect from you sitting up, you drinking half and half and sweets and all of this stuff, and you wonder why we see this behavior. They live in food deserts. There's a lot of food apartheid around them. They're not being educated. A mind that is released and exposed, it does not have time for violence. So you're not giving them everything that they need, and then you say it's them.
We have to also support the families, support families as well, right? Like,
absolutely.
We have a lot of young parents We have
That's true.
families that, generations of this thing
Yes.
that we have never really gotten in front of. And how do we do that? How do we support those families? Again, it's not on just the young person, right?
No,
It is
it
it
can't
is
be.
it's
They
the
only
block, it's the house. Yeah.
20. They only 15, 16. It cannot be on them. So we have to find a way to change the language. We have to have places where we're listening to them. I think a lot of times we're having these youth movements and all of these, let's talk to the youth, but then they are not at the forefront, and they don't implement anything within what you're trying to do. They have to be part of the application.
Yeah.
What we're looking at is these young people, they're falling the wayside, and we're continuing like, okay, let's have another meeting. Let's talk to them, but nothing's getting done. And we
I
see
think they're tired of that too. I
they're getting
mean, but
tired
then
of that. I don't
then
blame them.
also there is this like so there is like so that's like 29% of our city, right? It's like the kids who are in the mix and in the stuff. But then
Absolutely.
there's this 74, 70 something,
That's doing
76
amazing things.
that's showing up, going to school,
Yep.
doing all the stuff, even going to college. But then
Yep.
when they come home, there's no jobs for them.
Huh.
If it is a job, it's not something that is allowing me to make a living wage after my 4 or 2 years in college. Um, I've done everything I was supposed to do. But then when I got to school, I found out that I needed to take almost 2 years of remedial courses because the school system didn't
I'm
prepare
not
me the way
prepared.
that
Exactly.
that I should have been. But again, we're still not supporting and building for them. We put a lot of money into the folks, that small percentage of young people who those small percentage of young people who are making such a big noise, right? We're putting a lot of focus and a lot of money into them, but we also have this group of young people who are now getting a little tired of us, right? Who are getting a little tired of it, who saying like, well, damn, y'all put all that money into this. What about the stuff that we're trying to do?
Yeah.
What happens for us?
Yeah.
And nobody has a real answer for them.
That's a viable question, because we always talk about the noisemakers, the violence makers. But
I
our
mean,
young people who are going and doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, we have adults. The system has to check this. We have to check the system too, because what we living in puts us in this hole. And we all fight for the same jobs. We all fight for the same stuff. And then the young people, when they're coming back to community, first of all, they don't want to be in the community because they don't feel safe there. But then when they do come back, there's nothing for them to do, and they're not safe. So what do we expect from them?
this is when we have to push back on our leadership, right? And for folks to be more innovative. So when all of the construction and stuff happens into the city, what guarantee is there for young people who graduated from Baltimore City Public Schools having a job on one of those sites? Why is that not ever a part of the conversation when the negotiations are going, when these folks are coming to do construction or whatever they're coming to do here in our city? Who is advocating for young people during those conversations and say, all right, you can come and you can build, you can do whatever, but at least 50% of those jobs or 30% of those jobs are due to young people from Baltimore City Public Schools or from Baltimore City. Doesn't even have to be city schools.
I love that.
Because we get caught up on that too, right? Because there are a rack of young people who go to parochial schools, who go to independent schools, who are dealing with the same issues as our kids in city schools, because there's still, no matter what, there's still a young person in Baltimore City.
Absolutely. I so agree with that. Is that there have to be more options. It has to be, but I think a lot of times too, our options have to have options that are digestible for young people. We gave them a smartphone, and then we want them to still do what we did. And we want them to be not know anything when they have a smartphone in their hand. We have to have things that they can digest, and
things that are
do.
Appropriate for them. That are
yes, we always want them to clean up or learn labor. But if we're going to give them jobs or we're going to give them spaces, let them have a space in the office.
And then we're moving to a digital world, right? Like we're not this industrial place anymore. We are
absolutely.
So when you thinking about workforce development programs, yeah, the CNA programs and all, that's nice, that's good, right? But when you introduce a young person to the CNA program, also introduce them to the fact that that's not where they have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
In that program, you can become an RN,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or when you talk to young people about workforce development, where are those digital programs, right? Where is that marketing? Like, that's what they do. That speaks to them, right?
I
It
want to
speaks to
know.
the fact that all these young people have become entrepreneurs through half the country's become entrepreneurs,
They
including young
don't
people
want to work for
through
nobody.
COVID.
Stop
So
pushing it.
how do you help me with that?
Yeah.
Right. So we have the workforce development programs, we have that stuff. OED is doing it, right? But
Who's
the
doing it?
mayor's OED, the Mayor's Office of Employment Development, they have these programs, right? You have Yo West Baltimore, amazing program. I should have been one that I mentioned too. Yo West Baltimore, they doing it over there. But
Yeah.
and again,
And we
because
in the
they
hood.
are
Your West is in the hood, yo. So I give them props.
Lafayette, Tavon
Great
Thomas,
hood.
executive director.
Yep.
They partner with Elevate Baltimore, and they are killing it over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Young people are graduating. Young people are getting connected to programming that is out the box for some, like learning barbering. They're doing all these different things, right? The things that are bringing young people to the building, right? Who are at the same time who are also telling their friends and bring, so yeah, I forgot to mention them earlier, but it's that, right? Like I'm more likely to sign up for a workforce development program that has something to do with something I'm already into at 23 or 22 years old, right? Like I'm a content creator. So am I really going to sign up for the CNA
You're not
workforce
going to do that.
program?
You cannot. Like
No.
I said, technology, you've given them technology. And then you say you want to be a geriatric assistant.
Yeah,
They
like
don't,
no.
they're like, get out of here. That's not what they
Like
want to
no.
do. And listen, there's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong with it,
I work in the
right?
medical field. So
There's nothing
I'm not
wrong.
down in the medical field.
But
That's not what I'm doing. What I'm
we
saying
want to
is
give them some
people
more
need
opportunities.
options.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, people need it's folks who can do that, but there's folks who want to do something else. And we as adults, we have to have a further imagination for our Black children. Our imagination is so low for them that when we see them, we expect from them, but we don't even have an imagination for what they could be. They can be everything, and we got to change. A lot of our mindsets come from the elders.
Yeah.
That, listen, we still talking about what we did. Listen, the world is done left that. All that. When I went to school, there was no smartphones. Real talk. So what these kids have, I don't have. So I'm not trying to dictate how I went to school and what I should do. We have to change with the times, and the times are here. And so I hear you mentioning these programs. I like that because I'm testing you, Larry. Shoot. Come in here telling me that you don't know no names.
No, I'm telling you.
You dropped the good. You ain't give me the pie, gonna get you in some trouble. So we gotta talk about that off mic. So, but you did give me some names, and those are incredible programs. And I people watch.
And I also like to speak.
Go ahead.
In the assets, right? Like we can do deficit conversations. We can talk mad and angry all the time, but if we're not able to talk, if we're not able to talk positive, I don't know what to do. I gotta slide.
You got what?
I got something that just fell. I gotta get.
Oh, I just dropped something too.
I'm sorry.
Go and get it. And so yeah, this is real, Larry. You can move around. So, but anyway, children, our youth is important. And we have youth everywhere. So we're not just being seen in Baltimore. We're talking about Baltimore programs because we're familiar. We're in Bmore. We're in Charm City. This is our city. But I really want to talk about it on a holistic, on a macro level, kind of like programming and how we really, when it comes to youth empowerment, where we need to go. And that's why I keep saying about how technology has changed the conversation. And I think that the elders and myself included, our conversation is still steeped in what we did.
Yeah.
And now I hear so many elders say, "Oh, the children don't want to work." They don't want to work like you.
They don't want to work that way, and they
don't want to work that way, and they don't have to. And we got to get that in our mindset and change the way we're thinking, and be able to have these creative spaces, innovative spaces for our young people. What do you think about that?
I mean, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about us creating and sharing space for young people, right? Like really taking the time to listen
Yeah.
and being okay with being uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
Understanding that, I know my lane, right? And sometimes my lane ain't your lane. And that's good, right? So because we can learn from one another. But uh, us old heads have to be able um to work through that, right? To be able to share space, to let your hair down a little bit and let young people be young people. Because you'll learn a lot, right? You'll learn a lot from them. And then you'll be able to know because they'll tell you how they need your help or what you can do to support them. We can come in with all the suggestions, and
But they
some
gotta
may work,
applicate. You gotta let
right?
them applicate.
But they have to accept and believe in what you selling.
They gotta trust you.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we got to understand a lot of our young people have been abused. So many people come and go. And there's these expectations of them that they can't fulfill because of the things around them. So they don't have they got to trust you before they make any moves with you. So you got to come in the community and stay there for a while and show them what you're going to do. They're not just going to show up for you. I'm trying to
no,
tell you, you got
they're
to
not.
build relationships and really, really care about their outcomes, not about your program's outcome, their outcome. And so we got some people who know you, Larry, up here. Fields One. He said, let's touch on the deconstruction of recreation centers under so-called Black leadership. See, one thing I don't believe is no Black leadership. We don't have any power in this country. I think we get real crazy when we see Black person in power. But it shows every day that we are powerless because you see our neighborhoods, you see our children, you see what's going on. I think that the only way that we can get to a point where we have real Black leadership, we have to cultivate it from the beginning, not
Yeah.
just elect somebody who just comes in the door who looks good and sounds good. But anyway, Fields One, we're gonna let him touch that. He said the deconstruction of recreation centers. What you think
I,
about
I was gonna ask, like, I mean, was that question for me? Because I thought that was a pretty interesting.
it? He said, "What's up, Larry?" That's
Oh man,
Fields One. That's your man's in them. That's somebody know you.
I can't see it. I can't see what
Yeah,
you
you
see.
can't see them, but I'm saying what he's saying. He said, let's talk about the systematic deconstruction of our recreation in Baltimore City under so-called Black leadership. He says we need economic development, and the days of working a good job for 30 years and retire with a pension are gone, which is all true.
It's the truth. I mean, yo, like a couple of maybe like 4 or 5 years, longer than that, maybe like 6 or 7, almost 10 years ago. I was I'm a Baltimorean, right? And like it was to get a good job, work for the city, get your pension, and kind of sit back. And I kind of was in a position like, oh, I'm good, like but that is not me. So those days are gone, and I think that we do have to open the space up and create the jobs, right? That is still couldn't be city jobs and just rethinking how that works to attract um, the Black elite academics who are across the country, to come to our city and to do some of this work. On the recreation piece, man, I would love to talk more about that because I mean, I live in a neighborhood that feels it, right? We have a recreation center, but the programming is very limited. It doesn't really include much for that 14 to 25-year-old group, right? It's a lot of stuff for little kids and some stuff for seniors, but that programming for what the neighborhood looks like, because there's not many little kids. Yeah, there's still some grandparents and stuff here, but the folks who need it, there's no programming. But I mean, I think that's happening across the city and some of the
Across the
different
city? I'm glad you said that.
recreation centers. And I mean, over the last couple of years, the leadership at Rex and Parks has changed hands so many times. I think that it would be awesome if we had some folks who, like I kind of talked about earlier, like the Baltimore that I remember when recreation centers were like major hubs in the community because the community school initiative didn't exist back then, right? And so recreation centers were that place. Shoot, you learn karate and skating and everything else in Iraq, and that's not happening anymore.
It's not happening anymore, and that's a problem. But I think too, we have to change our rec centers and like you said, the
They be
program.
up to date too, right?
Yeah,
So
because a lot of people think rec centers that's a place for them to play and hang out. Rec centers should be building blocks. They should be building centers. And we got to get out of this rec center so kids can have a place to hang. They're going to do the same thing in the center that they're doing on the corner if you don't have programming and you don't inspire them. So even the rec centers are not, I think a lot of times when I hear questions, Larry, people want to give it to something else. The city should have this for children, and the city should have what you doing. We got to, and Fields, listen, this is no attack on you, brother. It's not no attack, but we got to all take and do one thing. You know, and Megan Holly, thank you for she's saying that we need a lot of things, and we do.
Yeah.
The Black community need a lot of things, but that's why everybody has to take something that they're good at. If you're good at finance, teach finance.
And recreation centers could very well be those hubs, right?
Like, it could be that hub, exactly.
And they have at one, you know, they were like, it's a little cooking class, you get some workforce stuff. But I mean, at the same time, as 21st century, like with 21st century schools, and so with these new school buildings, some recreation centers are being built, you know, rebuilt too, that are connected to schools.
Connected to them,
and some of that programming, you know, I think people are rethinking what programming looks like. But you know, a lot of that comes with like partnerships and funding. And so maybe if, and this is just my suggestion, so you know, but maybe if even that recreation center, no, but I don't feel like a whole bunch of stuff tomorrow. But but maybe if if recreation centers and some of the smaller ones kind of took that community school approach and its programming, right? Thinking about the partnerships. And I'm not saying that it's not happening, you know, because it very well could be, but thinking about the partnerships and other folks in the neighborhood that can come and do and support, so that it doesn't mean that you have to hire a staff to do all of this stuff, but really you have the partnerships and the relationships that can come and do some of these things for community folks. And so it has to be this give and take, because I know that there are community organizations that are willing to do that stuff with recreation centers, but those doors have to be open. So it's this relationship thing that has to happen in neighborhoods as well. And, you know, people have to talk.
I agree that people have to talk, but also I think too with the rec center is we're now establishing another thing that the system controls. So when it's ready to take money away, when it's ready to not give funds, or it's ready to just fund for seniors and leave these young people out, then now we're at a disparity again. We got to find a way to cultivate stuff ourselves. And I think rec centers are amazing. And I think they could be a hub for a lot of community development that is very micro right there that you can touch. But if we don't see that we can fund these things, families, 6 or 7 families on a block can have an entertainment for the children on the block, or all go somewhere once a year. We can galvanize and expose our children and expose youth and empower them ourselves. We have to stop thinking that the city's supposed to do it and this one's supposed to do it. It's our responsibility. And I get that we're working hard, and look, it's hard out here. Real talk. I'm not talking from a bottle, like it's hard. But that is the sacrifice we make for our most important resource, and that's our youth.
That's what we've been talking about, right? We've been talking about sacrifice and becoming uncomfortable, and not so much as the system, but us, right? Like community folks, families, grandpops, grandmoms, aunts and uncles. Like, we have to begin to understand that no one is coming to save us, and that we're here, right? And so, how do you begin to do the little things that create the big change within your communities? I hear you, but it really is about the sacrifice that we have to be willing to make, right?
We got to put it on ourselves. I think
we can blame the shit on everybody else, but it's ultimately it's us.
It's enough of waiting on other people to give your children a place to play, or your children a place to hang out.
But that's what the system has done to us too, though, right?
Yeah, but that's social engineering. But look where our children are. So we all got basements. Listen, you want a rec center? Build one, damn it.
We used to skate in my grandmother's basement.
Skate in the basement, John. Damn it.
Skate in the basement.
We gotta find a way for our children to get and the younger people, as they get older, then this will pass on. We will see this fostering throughout generations. We got to start with ourselves. If we foster them, they then will foster the next. but we don't have that because of a breakdown right now. So we got to build all of that up. So I'm not trying to go after anybody. Rec centers are important, brother Fields, but we got to think another way. So we got Jeannie Madison. She said 204 Rec was everything, Larry. That's one of your peoples. Then we got Megan Holly. She said we need committed parent organizations. We do. Parents can really do anything they want if they make the noise.
And they have to know, like,
Parents can shut down schools tomorrow.
Parents can shut down. Parents can get some things done. Like, so I chair the Parent and Community Advisory Board of Baltimore City Public Schools.
What you don't chair. That's what we want to talk about. What you not sharing.
and a lot of that work, right, is really about helping parents to, one, get connected to the policy work that happens at city schools, right? And that really involves their children. But then also being able to advocate for your child on a school level, right? So that's where your noise is made. That's where you get, you get those parents who are in the school, and you all have an issue, and you all get together and you push on that principle, and things happen. And then from that, you got an organized parent group now, and you have this advocating body at your school. And what PCAB does is to support that work. It's to support those parents that want to be advocates for their kids.
What's the name of it? Let me write in the chat. What's the name of it?
The Parent and Community Advisory Board of Baltimore City Public Schools.
Okay. Because we have to find ways to source so we can be advocates for our children, all children. And sometimes it's out of school too, because a lot of times, again, we of course everyone goes to school, but that block can, these neighborhoods can do so much. If they galvanize, but you have to, like, again, the sacrifice, it's a lot. And I don't know new ways to do things if you don't put some sacrifice in it.
You have to.
You have
to put some sacrifice in it, because it's not going to work if you're not. If you're not willing to.
If you're not willing to, you got to do something. All right. So Brother Fields was late. We talked about the 501c3s. He says, are we watching I guess the de-revolution of our community, or a plain deconstruction of our community? I think we see, and we're not watching. This has been going on for generations.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, don't think it just started, bro. This has been going on. We just been really silent and really just taking it. And I think people tired. But if we're tired, I think it's a lot of tired. People are tired, but we definitely have to, if we're going to do something, we have to do it, but we have to be innovative in what we're doing. The same approach is not going to work. What you think, Larry?
And to go all the way, right? Like, you can't do just a little bit. You can't do a little bit. You gotta see it through. And sometimes it may not be about you or about your kids or about your family, but it ultimately is about, the larger community which you are a part of. And so, that commitment along with dedication, right? You don't stop because it seems like it's a little hard. It's going to always be hard, but so you have to see it through. You're right. You're very right.
You have to see it through. Love it. All right, so let's talk about you sent something to me that these programs you're doing. So let's talk about some programming, because we talked about the programs, but let's talk about some program you're doing. You're a research project. I want to hear a little bit about that, about the research with young people, right? And then you sent me something about a program you're doing. So let's talk about some things that you're doing that is going to help young folks.
So what I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm the director of community engagement for the Nobody Asked Me campaign, which was
that's it.
It's been a 3.5 year study where we connected directly with young people who are in school, young people who are district aligned, young people who are just outside. It was a project that was where young people were self-selected. Nobody forced them to sign up. We were out on the street talking to young folks, and then was able to spend some time talking to them about what they saw as pathways or no pathways to success for adult success, the programs and opportunities that they've had or haven't had, what they saw as burning issues in our city and in their schools, and what we got is some things that most people who are connected to any young person would already know, but really able to hear it from young people in their words really kind of uh, made a big difference.
Well, can we get some examples
And
of
so like, so I'm gonna say, so like, um, there were probably like three or four major pillars that came out of it, and that was community safety and violence, transportation, pathways to adult success, and infrastructure, right? Meaning school infrastructure, recreations, like just the city, right? Like places that young people exist and how that affects them emotionally, how that affects them, how that has caused trauma, and just really thinking about how we support that. And so really being able to put stories and words to numbers that other research has, right? So this is a qualitative and quantitative research project where we partnered with Baltimore City Public Schools to give that data back, but we also partnered with the young people in the communities that we spoke to. So before we even had conversation with city schools around our findings, we had a community conversation at the Enoch Pratt, and shared all of the information um, back to the community, using those young people's voices in their stories. You can find a copy of our report on our website at www.nobodyaskmebmore.org. But
Be
from
more,
that,
not Baltimore. Be more.
be more. Mhm.
Okay.
And from that, we're now in another stage of the project. We've partnered with the Parkway Agency to create a docu-series where four young people and their families will have cameras put in their hands. Each one of the young people will kind of talk about one of the four pillars and how that has affected their lives. And so not only will they be able to tell their story and to be a contributor and a part of this project, um, but they'll also walk away with some knowledge and background now on filming and editing and what it is to create a docu-series. So they'll get training from Parkway and putting together the total video. And we received some funding from the Urban Health Institute to do that. And yeah, and just became a part of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation's Interdisciplinary Leadership Fellowship, also expounding on this work of Nobody Asked Me. I think that many folks have conversations with young people. People do research on young people, but they don't do research with young people. They don't put young people first in the conversation, and that's what we're really trying to do. We're really partnering with young people as academics and community folks, all working together to tell a story of what it is to be a young person in Baltimore. And particularly the age group that we work with was young people 14 to 25 years old, right? Who have gone through all of these things,
Yeah.
who have tried all of the stuff, who have been successful, who haven't been successful, who are still working through. And so it's been a pretty exciting the last 3 years connecting with young people and being able to share their stories in a way that folks just don't really get.
I love that. I think, and this is me thinking, please don't attack me, but I think that a lot of times we're scared of our young people. Like we bought into so many things that we hear about Black young youth that we are afraid to talk to our own damn children.
Yeah.
And we got to do better. I mean,
Oh, I mean,
so many of us are afraid of our own children, and because
black people.
Black people. We're not talking
Yeah.
about any, because this, I'm talking to
No,
black folks.
black folks.
How can
Scared
black
of black,
people be
scared of
black
black kids.
adults be afraid
Yes.
of black young people? We got to stop it and understand that they are only products of us. And love heals everything.
Yeah.
And we got to support them, and we got to have spaces for them, and we got to do it on a micro level. What you can do in your house or outside your house is what it will change the neighborhood, and then someone else does something. But we are afraid of young people. Let's put it on the table. We're scared to talk to them. We're scared of them, and we have a lack of imagination for what they could be. Yep, I said it. Larry said it too. He just don't want to say it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we limit our young people, right? Like
Absolutely, we
we
do.
don't allow them to soar or to think or to dream big, and we should. And I think
Yeah.
that, but I think that comes from the limitations that we've had, right? And so we have
Huh.
to say that, hey, this group of young people, they're not us, right? And I want to give you what I couldn't, what I didn't get.
That's it. That's it. And I love that. Is a lot of times we're insufficient in how we're approaching young people because no one approached us.
Oh yeah,
I lived in a household, shut your mouth and sit. And when the
oh
grown
yeah,
people speak, you go sit somewhere. Get
yeah,
out of grown people's conversation. Now grown people don't even come together because they text.
yeah.
How about that? How about that?
Right.
So we got new young people, we got new things, we got new way of doing things, but we still approaching it with the same mindset. Because I hear a lot of older elders, they say, "Oh, they don't listen." They ain't, tell me when you was 20, did you listen?
But listen, and did you listen? And who
Did
were
you
you
listen
listening
at
to?
18? I
Right.
just a lot of times we don't put ourselves in the space that they were. Did you listen at 18? That's what I want to know. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go
Not at
ahead.
all. Not at all. I did not.
So the way that we expect young people to be when you're in your 60s and you done did everything and they supposed to stop and listen to you, that's not going to happen. And so a lot of things have to be, the elders got to change this, change their mindset. We need the wisdom in the room. I think it's very important to have wisdom and people who've had lived experience. But we got to understand that when you have this much technology and you have this much for young people to access, they're exposed to things that I never would have been exposed to. My parents could tell me something and I had to believe it because I had no other source but the encyclopedia. And
Oh wow.
that was in real time. You know, the
Yeah.
encyclopedia really wasn't real time. I mean, that was a long time ago, but I mean, that was the only thing that we really had as a source in a dictionary.
Yeah.
You know, that was it. And that was stuff that was published. Now they got real-time information, and we got to understand that. So I think you see Megan Hollis, she said black people are definitely scared of black kids, literally terrified. And they deem all of their communication as disrespect. And that's so true. What do you think about that?
Oh, I totally agree. Um,
Yeah. Megan is
and
on point.
because like if we're raising young people to be independent thinkers and to be different from us, then why can't they question us?
Thank you.
Like why do you have to be offended because
Because they
this
learn in
young
Christianity, you don't question God. Somebody
right?
told them you don't make no questions. No questions.
Because I said so, right?
That says so. And that won't work anymore. And we gotta get away from that. We gotta move past that. We definitely gotta move past that. Because listen, we have innovative genius children. We have children that move culture. We have children that everyone emulates. We have children that are next level, and we are scared and we are dumbing them down. We got to do better. You cannot look at white folks or any folk till you look at you.
Yeah.
The mirror starts here, and that's me too. And so I'm not because I love my people, but we got to change. The dissension we see with young people, and the problems we see with young people is a lot of times it's because the elders don't have any vision. We got to get new glasses, Larry.
Yeah, we do.
We
We do.
do. We do. We have to get some new glasses. So okay, so you're doing nobody asked me campaign. So what else you involved with in Baltimore that's for youth empowerment? Anything else?
I kind of shared, I guess, some, working with the Baltimore Children and Youth Fund, making sure, those
Mm-hmm.
funds are getting into the hands of those organizations and people who are supporting our young folks.
Okay.
And then, and then the board work that I mentioned with PCAB and with Wide Angle. And then also still working with B City. That's where, a lot of this work really started. We received a $5 million grant back in 2015, 16 to really address stress and trauma, particularly in Central West Baltimore. But over the years, B City has grown to a small funding stream here in the city, and now really looking at how do we branch out throughout the city. We become our own 501c3. It's not a program of the health department anymore. So we've been moving, right?
Beautiful. What's
And
B City? Tell us
So
what B-City is.
Baltimore City's intergenerational task force on stress and trauma. And it came out of recast funding that came out of SAMHSA. Federal government sent money to Baltimore City after it was Baltimore and 4 other cities.
That got to be Freddie Gray.
Right after Freddie Gray.
I knew it. See, so we when we look at this country, it has to be total catastrophic something when
so
that's when money's released to change. Only when catastrophe comes about. And
that's why that money was specifically earmarked for Central West Baltimore. And it was so funny, like many of us in that space, and especially of us Baltimoreans, were like Central West Baltimore. Like, you mean West Baltimore? Oh, Sandtown.
Central West, whatever that is.
Sandtown, right? So that was Sandtown, Druid Heights, Res Hill, just all of those communities right there.
Sure.
And we were able to create a community board, which then began to, we gave out, probably B-City has probably given out over $1 million,
beautiful,
almost about $3 million in small community-based grants over the last 5 years. And the grant was $20,000. We started out $20,000 grants. The organizations had to have a running budget of less than $100,000. So there was very small grassroots organizations who many have been doing, just like you kind of mentioned earlier, like Aunt Cheryl and somebody else,
all of them,
who've always
all
made
nonprofits,
block, right? So we were working with those folks, like, you are a program and we're going to help you to get these funds and we're going to help you to grow.
But what about like upstarts, like folks who have incredible ideas?
Those were ups. A lot of them were,
and they're moving forward. Is there a something in place? Because a lot of us in the Black community, we're just helping folks.
The grassroots fund under the Baltimore City Children and Youth Fund is a place for those type of organizations.
Okay.
Right, and who will get that support. So it's opportunities and it's funding out there. A lot of what I do, and others like me, are really trying to make sure that folks know that it's there, and we want to help you to get to it.
Well, you're a consultant, so how do people get in touch with Larry Simmons Consulting? Because you definitely got a lot of information.
You can reach me at info@LarrySimmonsConsulting.com. Shoot me an email, and we can talk.
That's it. Info. You're gonna put your information. Info at
LarrySimmonsConsulting.com.
He's a man. He got his own joint. It's his name. I love it. I love it. So, Larry, we've been here an hour. I know it don't feel like it. You're supposed to say yes. It don't feel like
it. Does. I just looked down and just noticed that it's been an hour.
Yeah, it's been an hour. And, I don't hold the people too long, but I love to, this is what we do. We drop information and we talk about it. And me and Larry are just two people who are concerned about our community, our young people. He's been doing this for over 30 years. He's the plug in Baltimore, doing a lot of great things and about youth empowerment and community building, because really youth empowerment all is about community. We can't empower the youth if the community is not empowered. So part of what we're talking about is how do we control our own narratives. So our greatest resource is youth, but our own narrative is cleaning up our community and being responsible for the community, not to clean up it for somebody else. We got to clean this thing up. We got to clean up how we move, and we got to clean up our children. So that's it for tonight. But I definitely want to hear your jewel. I need you to inspire the people, leave them a jewel, something good, Larry.
I think there's been so many we've talked. This has been a great conversation, and
that's my watermelon. Sorry.
It's been a great conversation, and I believe that small steps to big change, and really thinking about those things that you can do within your family, on your block, in your neighborhood, for those young people that lead to the big change in our city.
I love that. Small steps, big change. Yep, Larry. Listen, it took a lot to get you in that seat.
Thank you.
I'm glad you came through. We appreciate this conversation. We need more of this. I might invite you back. We want to hear more about Nobody Asked Me campaign. Yeah, Nobody Asked Me campaign, because that sounds very intriguing. I would love to see that docuseries when that's done up, for sure. And I'm gonna go on the website, and you guys go look at the data. Nobody Asked Me bbR.org, right?
Yeah, nobody asked me bbMore.org. The
Yep,
report
go
is
check
there.
that out. And if you want to get in
And
touch with Larry, info@LarrySimmonsConsulting.com.
or Larry C. Simmons at gmail.com.
See, you
Either
did
one.
it again. Didn't I tell you stay in one place? Here you
I'm
go.
sorry.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. Listen, guys, this has been a great conversation. Black Blockers, I appreciate you. Megan Holly, you are the GOAT, sis. I appreciate you. Fields, Brother Fields, you came in hard, throwing punches. I like that. Thank you, guys. There's some other people here. Your Jeannie. Do you know Jeannie?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. So your peoples came. I appreciate that. So listen, this has been a great night, great conversation. Larry, we appreciate all your genius. We appreciate everything you said tonight. And listen, come back again.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. Have a good one.
No, you gotta do the deuces. Ain't no good one. Deuces.
Have a good one. Deuces.
We out.
Have a good
See you, Black Boxes. Don't go nowhere, Larry. You stay there.